Hi, this is Lauren Scott, and I am posting for the what 3 institutions I think I would choose to close and why. I think just kind of starting out, listening to everyone else's videos and responses was actually super informative. I think I get fairly close-minded now that I work at UNCW and kind of forget about the other 16 institutions. So it was really nice to kind of hear a little bit more about them, some of the historical information, some of the retention, graduation, the diversity efforts. It really kind of puts your UNC system into perspective a little bit better. So I think learning from this project was really nice. I was assigned the North Carolina School of Science and Math, which for me, while I work with high schools every day, it was nice to see how, as a state institution, this one is dramatically different from some of the other, or from all of the other 16 other public institutions. So when I thought about what schools I would probably like to close and why, probably the one that comes to mind first would probably be Elizabeth City State University. As my colleagues were going kind of through some of the statistics, a little bit more about the university, they ranked 13th for their graduation rate, and it also sounded like their retention rate was at around a 72%, which is definitely lower than kind of the UNC system average. So I think those were probably 2 of the main determining factors for me for maybe wanting to put this one on my list. Probably another one to put on my list, which after I did all the work and a little bit of the research, while I really enjoy learning about the North Carolina School of Science and Math, I think if you're looking at a 4-year kind of institution, the North Carolina School of Science and Math is not necessarily fulfilling that requirement. I think that would, it's a great institution, it's a great high school, but it's not producing some of the same results, some of the same revenue that a 4-year institution here in the state of North Carolina is. So while as much as I really like the North Carolina School of Science and Math, and I think it's producing great graduates, around 600 students every year that are enrolled in that institution, I just don't know that for the money that the state is spending on it, that is necessarily an institution that, if you had to look at chopping one, that might be one to look at. They aren't necessarily guaranteeing that those students are staying in the state of North Carolina to then go on to our institutions here. So, while I think it's doing a great job in the high school level, it's not kind of on the same playing field as some of the other universities that we looked at. And, these kind of which universities to cut are kind of a little bit of a difficult choice. I kind of had a little bit of a toss-up for my last one. I really think I would probably have to choose Fayetteville State University. I hesitate just knowing that I already kind of listed Elizabeth City on my list, and kind of continuing to list an HBCU on the list. But I think that North Carolina Central and North Carolina A&T kind of are serving the role of the HBCUs and really kind of doing a wonderful job working with the African American student population and really the very diverse population that kind of flocks to those institutions. And Fayetteville State only had a 31% graduation rate when you looked at the kind of the 4-year graduation rate. And so, while I know that the 4-year graduation rate is low to begin with, I thought kind of out of all of the institutions that we looked at, that was one of the lower ones. So I'd probably have to list that. And I think, my colleague that talked about Fayetteville State University even mentioned retention rates, graduation rates. That is definitely one of the challenges that Fayetteville State encounters. And so that's probably why I put them on my list. Diversity-wise, I think it's really difficult for me to choose those 2 institutions, Elizabeth City and Fayetteville State University, because I know it does serve a very unique population. But I think some of the enrollment numbers, retention numbers, growth, kind of the opportunities that some of the other 4-year institutions would definitely kind of take on that burden if those 2 institutions closed. And again, my 3rd institution was the North Carolina School of Science and Math, which was really difficult for me to say after I used that as the institution that I researched quite a bit. But kind of gauging from the level of the universities in the state right now, I think North Carolina School of Science and Math would probably be one I would put on the list. So I'm looking forward to hear what other folks kind of listed as their 3 schools, and I guess who else agrees with me or disagrees. So I'm looking forward to hearing that. Thanks.